Hey guys, welcome back. We have a really special episode this week because I am joined once again by the lovely and talented Miss Dana Collins. Welcome back to the podcast.
I feel so honored. I mean, three times I'm kind of like uh Glenn Greenwald on a podcast.
You're in the lead. You're top of the nobody else has done three. And I asked Dana to be on because she is the author of this brand new book. It's called Network Marketing Today, The Big Build. So, first of all, let me start with congratulations. Um, I just finished my book 15, so I know what it's like to birth a baby, like a book.
Yes.
Um, and so many people talk about doing it. Almost nobody ever does. The people who started, almost nobody ever finishes it, but you stayed the course, really poured your heart and soul into this and got it out in the world. So just congratulations for that.
Well, and I have you to really thank for that because I think it's just like building a network marketing business. If you're accountable to someone you don't respect, you can come up with a reason to get out of it. But I was accountable to you and I never wanted to disappoint you. Like like I knew that if I didn't finish, I would disappoint Randy. And that was worse to me than actually doing it. And that's the truth.
Well, really, you got it out there, and so congratulations. And also, I have to congratulate you. I just nominated you to the Guinness Book of World Records for the worst book launch ever conducted by an author. And I'm positive you're going to be accepted and become the world record holder.
Um, you
You
know,
are just you're just keeping this a secret. I mean,
well, I know, I know, and I will do better. It just, I've been traveling so much, it just hasn't been on the top of my to-do list. I've literally been at home like maybe a week and then I'm gone, a week and then I'm gone, a week and then I'm
yeah.
gone. So I don't want to put myself in a situation where I can't follow through on what I promise. So I'll do a better job. I know it. Yeah. Yes.
Uh, so I think I'd like to begin with what do you think was the tipping point or the decision point that made you come to the point and say, I I need to write this book and I need to get it out there in the world. What was that? What did that process look like for you?
The tipping point for me, honestly, was I watched someone from the corporate side give a talk on network marketing. And it was observational. It was kind of like the study that was done that told you not to eat eggs because they were going to give you high cholesterol. And it was just, it was just run all over MSM and people stopped eating eggs. But it was an observational study. It wasn't based on empirical data, peer-reviewed science. It was just somebody's observation that people who ate a lot of eggs had high cholesterol, but without considering they smoked, they didn't exercise, they were overweight. So I'm watching this guy based on observational data talk about network marketing to an audience of people out there making the effort to build a business and giving them advice that was really, really bad. And it was very clear to me this person had observed what he thought the business to be, but didn't actually understand the mechanisms, the gears that made the business grind and move forward. So I thought there's just a lot of, and you go online and you see it too. You see people who have never built a network marketing business tell you that, oh, I'm going to teach you how to do attraction marketing. And people are naturally kind of sucked into the idea of something where they don't have to really make the effort that you need to make. And people are getting very wealthy selling to network marketers. And it just bothered me so much that I thought, I just want to put something in writing that people could read and understand this is what makes the business work. It's a unique business model, one. And number two, what does it really take? This is not for the faint of heart. It's a challenging business, and it's challenging in all the best ways, but it's still work. But it's not about putting some great content out in the world and attracting it back to you.
I hear you, man. I'm at any given point, I'm always working on an agenda for one company or another that I'm consulting with or working with.
Yeah.
And it's always that issue. They send me a draft and they've got 4 or 5 corporate executives that they've given a topic of training for the field at the convention or the major event for, how to meet people or how to recruit more or how to build your customer base. And these are people who have never done those things.
Yeah.
They're brilliant a lot of times at what they do. They
Yeah.
great logistics. They get the products registered around the world. They set up the inventory management system. They pay the bonus checks on time. I love them for that. We all love our execs for doing that. But I don't know why so many of them think that they're supposed to, every executive is supposed to do a keynote at so you get one of two scenarios usually. The first is the most frequent is everybody wants to be a motivational speaker. So they give a rah-rah keynote and they talk about how the mama bird pushes the little birdies out of the nest and catches them until they grow their wings and they,
Or the moonshot, or the moonshot.
the moonshot, the starfish on the beach story, every story Zig Ziglar told back in 1976 and Jim Rohn told back in 1986, and they're all still being recycled around. So that's the first dynamic. And then the other one is that they actually pick a skill set, training topic, and try to train on that, even though they know absolutely nothing about it.
Yeah.
It's a fight I'm having all the time.
Well,
And then of course the second thing is what you said about the gurus and the coaches and the consultants and the ebook people and the authors who have never been in our business, but find it very lucrative to sell to our teams.
well, I mean, because people are really hungry for success. And our profession is, I think, especially vulnerable because people come in and want it to be easier than it is, I think. And all they have to do is promise, I know the easy way. It's the new way. Your mentors that have been in this business for 20, 30, 40 years, they're dinosaurs. They have no idea what they're doing. The business doesn't change. It doesn't. The techniques that we might employ today are different, maybe from the techniques we employed in the 90s, but principles are permanent. Techniques are temporary, and techniques are always going to shift and change, but the principles are permanent. And not every technique lines up with a principle. But if you don't understand the fundamental principles that guide our business, it's really easy to get sucked in by one of these gurus, these coaches, these online experts. It never ceases to amaze me how vulturous these people really, really are. They're leeches on our profession. And I'd like people to be a little bit more savvy. And so I'm hoping that by outlining business building principles. It will help people realize when they're being lied to.
I think one of the intriguing chapters is chapter 3, and you're referencing the difference between how successful people think versus not successful people. Can you talk about that a little more?
Excuse me, I just swallowed the wrong way. Drink some water. I drink tea and water at the same
Don't
time.
die on me here. We need you.
I won't do that. I was just talking to a friend of mine. It's like, how come how come as you get older, it gets harder to swallow things? Is it just are too ambitious with it? So successful people don't see success as negotiable. I mean, it's just that simple. Unsuccessful people are constantly negotiating with the idea of success. A success is the people that I've met through the years. They, like I was talking to someone over the last couple of days. I did a series of DAs, and someone who's just starting in the business and is a little kind of not quite yet committed. And I said, I talked to 75 people before I got somebody who would actually start the business with me. Everyone said yes, they signed up because I was great at sales. So I had, all these people sign up, but finally somebody who actually did something, 75 people. And the response was, you were sure this was going to work. And I said, no, I wasn't sure that it was going to work. I was sure that I was going to do whatever I had to do to make it work, because it was my obligation to make this work, because I told my family I was going to do this. I told my friends I was going to do this. And I wanted to honor my word. And I think successful people just don't see not doing it negotiable. So successful people will do what it takes. They don't set limits. Like, I'm going to talk to 5 people, and if God wants it to work, one of those 5 people is going to say yes and build business. And I say, well, if God wants you to die today, why don't you lay down in the road and see if a car hits you? I mean, it's just the same thinking. It's just success isn't, it's a mindset more than it is anything, in my opinion, anyway.
What I hear and what you're saying is personal responsibility and accountability, because when you say you just were going to keep doing it until it worked, you were taking responsibility for it, as opposed to of, does this thing work? Well, I'm going to try it and we'll see if it works, which means I'm taking no personal responsibility. That's what I'm hearing, is you're taking accountability for that success.
You take accountability, but it's even more than that. It's feeling obligated to succeed. There's an obligation component in that, which is I feel that it's my duty to succeed for many reasons, because I've committed to people that I'm going to, like, I've made a commitment to someone that I'm going to do this. And in many cases, someone's investing a lot of time in your success. And I don't want to take anything like that for granted. Just like with the book, I did not want to take for granted that you were giving me your feedback and not finish the project. That would be, it's irresponsible, it's wrong, and it's not honoring the one resource that you have that you can only give one time, and that's your time.
Yeah, you're amazing that way. So, and people would never know how it came about. I have I used to do, I don't have time anymore, but I used to do a author writer workshop once a year for people who wanted to write books. And so Dana had actually signed up for some, don't know if it's going to be a training album or something. It was like a $1,000 or $1,500 thing, and we were testing it. We decided not to do it. So I said, hey, we're not going to do that. We'll give you a refund. And you said, well, I'm thinking about writing a book. Can I apply, that towards consulting of the book? And I said, sure, we can do that. And I never ever wanted to come back and say, well, okay, your 1,500 is used up, because I did sense that with you. You were just in the project. You took the notes. She sent me every single chapter one at a time. Okay, here's the introduction. We'd work on it, workshop it. She'd send it back. Then was chapter one, and you were just accountable. You knew what you wanted to do, and you just committed, and you did it. And I love to work with people who do honor my time, who honor my talent. It's like, in the position you're in, how many times we get a call, hey, can I take you to lunch and pick your brain? And, and you
Or
end up
this,
buying lunch anyway, and they never do what it is the advice you gave them. They're just looking for something to procrastinate. You're very, who you are, what you want to do, and you're really great at just doing it.
well, it's really funny you say that about, people calling you. This is the one that drives me nuts. When the person calls you for the umpteenth time and they say, I'm going to the next level. And it's kind of like, I have a gal that, she called me not too long ago and said that. And I just said to her, I said, I've heard this before from you. And how do you think it feels on my end or your family's end when you keep disappointing us and because we get into it with you and we're pulling for you, we're putting our time and energy into you, and then you just don't do it. And for a minute she was mad, and then she came back and she said, you're absolutely right. And she has been in it to win it ever since. So I think sometimes we allow people to, as leaders, we're so glad they want to activate and do more level up that we just kind of go along with it. And we don't really think about, how it impacts us if they don't do it again. And that we have limited time that could go to someone else. Should we, believe them? And I think sometimes being honest with people about how something makes us feel or how it affects us too, because I think sometimes people just think we're there and they have a right to our time, our talent, our ideas because they're somewhere in our organization. But I think sometimes as a leader, you just kind of need to say, well, I'm a person too, and this is how I feel when you continually do this. And it's I think sometimes people forget that we actually feel things because we care so much
Yeah.
about if someone succeeds.
Yeah. Because we're all so wrapped up in ourselves, and we have to, it takes some real self-awareness to kind of elevate, go up to 25, 30,000 feet, look down on yourself, look down on your behavior, and realize, oh yeah, these things I'm doing and saying, they impact other people. It
Yeah.
isn't just about me.
Yep. And I've had people say really hard things to me during my career. And in an instance, it was hurtful just because it felt very personal. But when I had some space, I realized they're right. I have some things I need to change because they're called your blind spots for a reason. And the people who care about you will tell you the truth in love. They really will.
Yeah. Yeah, if you can get 3, 4 people in your whole life who are that way, you're doing amazing. People
Mm.
who honestly love you and care about you enough to tell you the truth.
Mhm.
And the only way you attract them is if you're willing to be that kind of person for other people,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
they're always going to expect that back. Otherwise, the relationship doesn't work.
Yep. True. True that.
So, the title, Network Marketing Today, The Big Build, that's kind of a weird title to me. What was the thinking going into that? What made you choose that title?
Um, well, I think it's because people think that, well, first of all, again, as I said, techniques are temporary, principles are permanent. And so I wanted it to be in the now, not just relevant to today. In other words, what I'm writing is relevant today. It was relevant yesterday. And what it looks like to build an organization, the big build. This book is not written for somebody who wants to come in and find a few customers. I mean, like those are good things. We want those people. I'm not saying that those people are not vital to the overall organization, but it's the building that the majority of people come in and they want to create, which is that residual leveraged income that only comes through network marketing. But to get there, you have to understand what the build looks like. So that was the kind of the thinking behind the title.
What else you want someone to know? They're looking at the book on a website. They're thinking about what do they need to know that why what are they really going to get out of that book that maybe they don't recognize at first?
I think the thing that you're gonna walk away from is you're gonna have a bigger belief in network marketing, because I love the network marketing business model. I don't understand why more people don't get it right away, but they just don't. And so many people come into this business and they lean into their own understanding. And that understanding is, oh, it's an e-commerce business. I remember back in the day when you came and spoke to our company, and I was first introduced to Randy Gage. You compared you basically, after you said, I know what you talked about last night, and everybody's kind of looking around and everyone, or I know what you did last night. That's what you said. I know what you all did last night. And we're all looking at each other like, what? Like, I wasn't there. What did they do? And you said you got on your knees, you all prayed, God, please help me sponsor a hairstylist, because that year a hairstylist was our top kind of producer. And you said it
Yes.
might work, but it won't duplicate. And that hit me like a ton of bricks, because it made so much sense. I'd read quite a few network marketing books, but I'd never heard it that put that succinctly and clearly. But you also said right now, um, you are all like independent retailers. You all have this Nordstrom set up in your house, which was exactly what people were doing. I mean, people would have a lounge chair in their office that they would have people come in and they do these European hot towel facials on, which is kind of like running your own mini salon in your house or a Nordstrom retail setup. And so back then, people didn't get the business model. So they created, they went, oh, you sell products through retail. So let's create our own version of that. Today there's e-commerce. And so let's create a version of that, missing the big build, the bigger part of the business. And I think that's the thing you're going to get out of this, is understanding why the e-commerce approach is not going to build a sustainable long-term organization. You'll also understand, what makes this business so unique and how to explain it to someone else. Because I think that understanding isn't often clear to somebody going out and doing a presentation for the first time. So they lean into the company's compensation plan and they make people's heads roll around on, with like, I don't get any of this, instead of, I mean, back, even before I was starting, people used to draw circles to show how leverage and geometric growth worked. And that was really effective. But that people have gotten away from that and don't understand any of it. Like what really drives this profession?
They don't talk about leverage. Which
No.
is the single, this is why maybe 5 years ago, I said, that's it. I'm calling it leveraged sales because that's the essence of what it is. It's not sales. It's
No.
not selling. You don't have to be a great salesperson. I'm a terrible salesperson. I'm a great marketer. And I understand, hey, I need to use tools. I need to use a system. I need to have some kind of a pathway that's bringing qualified candidates in front of me and then using tools that make presentations so I can get leverage, so I can escape trading hours for dollars.
Mhm.
And that's the issue with like the outside sales trainers. And, today it's all the chat GPT and AI consultants, right? Who are poaching, parasitizing our people to sell them all that stuff. And they've forgotten the people in the business. They don't talk about leverage anymore. And it's so crazy.
Well, they're not,
The
yeah, they're not, yeah, it's like, I just, without a consumable product, you don't have the residual. And the compensation plan allows leverage, and the combination of those two things creates something called geometric growth, which is magic, but most people don't understand the difference between those terms at all. And they don't know how to explain it, draw it out, and help someone else understand what this business is all about. It's let me do a reel on social media and people think, oh, that's what this business is. It's marketing a product or a lifestyle on social media. And that's really unfortunate.
I remember when I first did that Arbonne convention for you, it was, and this is at least 15 years ago, right? Maybe 20.
1990 is 1997, I think.
Okay. Yeah. And so the number one distributor was a guy, which was a big thing. He was, there were thousands of people in the audience. He might have been the only man, right?
And
And
he's still with Arbonne. Yeah.
he had spoken before me, and he was being recognized as the top guy. And he had an amazing salon and, built a business there. And that's how I knew, oh, I know just the opening line I'm going to use with this crowd. Hey, I know what you did last night. And, got down on one knee and prayed to sponsor a hairstylist. And it wasn't just you. I mean, the whole convention center, it just hit them like a bomb. Like, oh my God, how did he know that? Because it's the natural human thing is, oh my God, that guy is so amazing. So hairstylists are amazing. Why can't I sponsor a hairstylist? Because they don't understand the leverage part and say, no, no, it's not about sponsoring the hairstylist. It's about how do I get leverage? How can I be duplicated? I think the next thing I told them was, okay, how many people in this convention hall would like to sponsor me? And 5,000 hands or whatever were in the audience go up. And I told him, well, you're never going to sponsor me because you're going to bring me to a presentation and you're going to do a facial on me and do half my face. And it would give me like a facelift thing and say, so do you see how this is? Now, if you buy this bar of, jar of cream, well, you'll get to do the other half. And you know what? I'm never going to join a company where I have to bring people to my living room and do facials.
No,
It's just not who I am. No.
no.
And you know what? There are people who love doing that and they're power retailers and they're going to produce big volume, but that's not leverage. How many people can you put in that recliner in your home salon there and do a facial, right? It's like when I joined Shackley, I had a sponsor. He had this beautiful home. He had a 3-car garage that he couldn't park his cars in because he had turned it into a meeting room. So he didn't have to rent hotels. So all the meetings for that area were held in his 3-car garage, which held, 112 people or whatever the number was. And then he had this office in a spare bedroom with literally $60,000 worth of inventory
Louise.
that was replenished all the time. And he had an assistant who worked for him full time, 9 to 5, 5 days a week, and she ran the store. And people on his team were coming and picking up stuff all the time. And I was like, dude, I love you, but how many people do you think can duplicate that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, today the FBI would raid your house.
Yeah,
Well,
right.
something that just as you're talking, I sort of thought about, and that's, I really am a big believer in the living room presentation. I just want to be clear, and I know you are as well, Randy. You're talking about, what you're talking about is a little bit different. It's, is it because there's doing because I believe living room presentations are a great way to meet new people. If I have a friend, get people together, but the presentation that you're doing, it needs to be something that people aren't going to go, I would never do that. There's always going to be people who are going to think I'm never going to be comfortable presenting to a group of people. But if your presentation is, it can be anything you want it to be in that living room. It doesn't have to be this elaborate product thing. And, and I know people who are very successful doing that, but I also think there's challenges, as you said, with that idea, because it sets in people's mind that this is a selling business, not a teaching and training business. And there's a line, and it's very, very easy to cross.
And I know I can do $10 million a month in volume in my team working 15 hours a week.
Yeah.
So that's my receipts. Everybody can tell me all their theories and everything. And I'm like, dude, I watch your lifestyle. You work 80 hours a week. Yeah, you make 80 grand a month or you make 100 grand a month, but let's be honest, you got a grinder lifestyle. You're just dialing for dollars across the time zones, and 2 a.m. in New York, you're talking to people in Hawaii. And I don't want that lifestyle.
Yep.
I'm just at an age now and a place in my life where I don't want to do that. And so yeah, like those I still love doing home meetings, and I don't want to do a home meeting in somebody's beautiful $2 million home in the suburb. That's not the payoff. I want to do a home meeting in somebody who lives in a trailer, a mobile home park, streamline. Those people who are just really hungry and um, just did one recently above a restaurant that somebody has they rent a restaurant downstairs. And in their house, I was sitting on a crate of onions because they have all the produce that they can't fit in their restaurant gets delivered to their house. They keep it upstairs and then they run up and bring it down to the restaurant, right? That's the perfect kind of home meeting because any guest there says, oh, I don't need $1 million home. I don't have to be an incredible platform presenter. I don't, So yeah, I mean, those home presentations, and I get that, and I'll be honest, 85.296% of the presentations I'm doing today are online. They just are. I'm working across the
World.
world in different countries or whatever, and you were doing here's the meeting for Spain, and then here's the one for Norway, and here's the one for Mexico or whatever. But even when I'm in those home ones, there better be um, a flip chart a PowerPoint deck that everybody uses, or my favorite is just a really kick-ass video. So they introduce me, I say a few words, we play the video, and then I'm there to answer questions and stuff so that anyone who's there says, oh yeah, I could do that. So, oh, I don't have to do some 1 hour presentation on the product line and finances and money and business or whatever. He queued up the video and played a video. I
Yeah,
could do
I
that.
always have a script, and I hold it in my hand and I make a point to read from it at points, even though I've done it so many times, I pretty much could do it from memory.
Right,
Um,
right.
but it's important for people to go, oh, I don't have to know all that. I just have to be able to read.
Yeah.
Um, but there's something that you said, and that is, let me go back in my head here a second, talking about the going into the trailer, and you prefer that to the $1 million home. I think there's, one of the things that uh is challenging for people is talking to the right people. And I think it would be a worthwhile conversation to have, because I think the biggest mistake that network marketers have made since network marketing probably started was spending too much time with the wrong people. And I see really hard workers spending too much time with the wrong people. And it's that which keeps you in the grind. It's that which has you working 50, 60 hours a week instead of the 15 to 20. Um, and I know, you've written a lot about this, and I have some thoughts on it. How would you feel about kind of unpacking that a little bit for the people who are going to watch this, so that they don't spend their time, sort of climbing the wrong ladders?
Yeah, go on more. Go on more.
I've just, I, it's funny because it's not about, it's like you could be in a trailer, you could be above a restaurant. I don't think it really matters. It's how hungry are you, and how you present yourself, I think is so important. And there's this cultural thing that I see happening, and I think it's making it harder for prospecting, which is this, that the people are getting lazier about their appearance in some ways. And in my opinion, that's kind of an indicator. That's a red flag. Like when I meet someone, I've met people that don't have two pennies to rub together, but they look really good. Their clothes are clean to start with, and they match, and they're neat, and they look that, they've managed to brush their hair. If they're female, they've managed to, put on a little makeup and polish it up a bit, and they're super presentable. And on the other hand, I've met very influential people who show up and they look like they just, like they just got up out of bed and just said, oh, I'm late for my meeting. Let me just walk over there. And, so I'm always, so I'm, for me, it's not about their financial situation. It's about how hungry they are. It's really gets down to the why, what their motivation, their underlying motivation is. What do they want in life? Do they have a big vision for their life? I know I never wanted to, like, I have very expensive taste. I just do. And I wanted to be able to indulge that. I mean, that's an honest answer. But when I started this business, I was $40,000 in debt, but I managed to, look appropriate. And
Mm.
so I think that's what I'm always looking for. That person who wants, has a, they want to have, it doesn't have to be a lot of stuff, but they just, maybe they want a really quality life and they don't know how else to get it. They don't have a way to do that, or they're in that constant grind, like a restaurant, as you know.
Yeah, and like the house thing, if you live in a $2 million home, I want you to do your home meeting in the $2 million home.
Yeah.
But if you live in a double wide, I want you to do your home meeting grand opening in the double wide.
Mhm.
Because I don't want you to say, oh my God, I know that lady in the company, she has a $2 million home. I don't have that, so I could never do the business.
Yeah.
I have the most success in those double wides and those efficiency apartments and those small, 2 bedroom with 5 family members living there because they're going to say that right in their introduction. Hey, thanks for coming tonight. I'm sorry we're so cramped and I know people are sitting on the floor, but that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this business because I want to get a dream house, or we want to get a house in this neighborhood and where these kids can go to this school or whatever. That resonates with people. And we got to let people know that you can do this from where you are. It's important they see, if somebody joins my team and sees me now and the clothes I wear and the home I live in and the cars I drive, they're like, well, of course it works for me. But they got to understand, no, when I started, it was with my old beat up, broken down Plymouth, living
Yeah.
in a crappy little efficiency studio apartment.
Well,
So you start with where you are and
yeah,
build from there. It's
when I
got to
started,
be.
Randy, I knew that if I was going to do this and I wasn't going to make the income that I was used to, and I was in debt and I needed to pay that off. I couldn't live in the house that I owned, so rented that and lived in uh, a row house in a very, I would say, dangerous neighborhood, like a neighborhood that people that in Baltimore that most people would not walk through. But I knew that if I was going to make this work, I couldn't be stressed out about paying my mortgage. And,
Mhm.
down the road, I sold the house because we needed the cash from the house. Because then the real estate market was better because at that time, it was like, oh, I can't sell it. We're going to lose money, but we can rent it and then live in this row house. Um, and the first house that I bought wasn't very big. There were no kitchen cabinets. Um, but I would pack out that living room. I mean, we'd have people up the stairs. We'd have people, just like you said, on the floor. I mean, in a space that was not very big. There was no air conditioning, so we'd have to have the doors open, the windows
Yeah, yeah.
open, fans going, so people wouldn't die in the summer. But it wasn't the house, it wasn't any of those things. It was the vision. It's casting that vision. I believed so much in this business model that just explaining to people again the leverage, the residual, how it works, and the simplicity of the system, people would just come every time we held one because of the vision that was being cast. And really at the end of the day, that's what pulls people into it. It's your belief and the vision that you have of where you're going with this.
So the forward to your book was written by a dear friend of mine and yours, our mutual friend, Rita Davenport. What has Rita meant to you?
You know, Rita, it's very hard to put that into words because when somebody makes such a significant impact in your life and on your thinking, it's you really, I mean, it- you just, I get emotional. I get very emotional because I think sometimes these people come into your life and at the time you don't know how they're going to shape you and what they're going to do for you. But Rita was one of those people who she's able to put into words a concept and create three letters, like we're talking about belief and belief and, or just anything. And like she would always say, mind your mind. And it's such a simple phrase, but she had the ability to simplify very complex ideas into very digestible thoughts so that you could really absorb what she was saying. But more importantly, she held everyone to a higher standard in terms of the way they showed up. Like, and I hate to say this because sometimes, like in today's world, I'll see people get on the platform and they look like girls gone wild, in Fort Lauderdale. And when Rita was with our company, if I had walked out in such an outfit, she would have said, go back to your room and change. She would always hold you to like a professional and just a standard above where maybe you were. And just like you never wanted to disappoint Rita. And Rita was one of those people who always knew the names of your kids. And she would never hesitate to call and call you out. I almost quit the business, and I tell the story in the book and how Rita called me out. Like, I mean, she called me out. I mean, in fact, she called me the other day and she called me up and she goes, you heifer. Because that's what she called me when I was going to quit. She called me up and here's the president of the company calling me and saying, you heifer. And then she goes, it's a Southern term.
She would be canceled today.
Yes. And and she was joking when she called me this last time around, you heifer, because she had read the story in the book that I put in there. And I don't know if she even remembers calling me up and calling me a heifer 3 times during the conversation. But by the end of the conversation, I realized why I wanted to quit. And that it had nothing to do with the company. It had nothing to do with the products. It had everything to do with me. But always when things get hard, it's the blame goes outward. And that's where I was.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
in complete blame mode. And I was just at that verge of justifying leaving the company because I'd already told my upline, this is it, I'm done. And she was smart enough to call Rita and knew that Rita would absolutely pummel me. So let me grab my dog so he doesn't keep barking because he's blind and he gets disoriented.
I don't remember that dog. That's I just saw the white one last time.
Yeah, this one is a senior citizen that I took in who has a lot of issues, and people don't adopt dogs with this many issues except for
Yes.
me.
Have you seen the YouTube channel Sitting with Dogs?
Uh-uh.
It's increíble. This guy, he's talk about making your passion a business and making it work. Just a cool guy. He goes to shelters, the pet shelters where they're gonna, euthanize the dogs if they don't get adopted, and he sits with them. So he's built up this YouTube channel with millions and millions of views, and he's got sponsors, and then they give, treats to, and so he'll feature dogs trying to get them adopted, and then the sponsors will give a year's worth of dog food or this or that or chew toys or whatever, because they're just frightened to death, and some of them are just crazy in these kennels. So he just goes in and he stands without looking at them, so they kind of don't feel so afraid. Then he sits down without looking at them, and then he might just offer a treat. And sometimes it'll take 20 minutes where he just, because if you look at the dog, they think, they get nervous and they might want to bite you or think you're going to attack them or whatever. So he just sits with them to calm them down and get them comfortable or whatever. And then it helps the shelters get these dogs adopted because they're not so crazy sitting in the, because, you know, if you're mom and dad and you bring your two kids to the shelter and you want to adopt a dog and the dog is sitting in the corner and is shaken and afraid, that dog is never going to get adopted. So
Yeah.
you got to see it. You'll just, but it's going to be very dangerous for you to watch it. You're probably going to want to adopt 10 dogs in the first week.
It's already, you have no idea.
I do,
Constantly.
you
I
know.
fostered a lot of dogs. I have my daughter started a foundation for advocating for fostering. And I mean, it's so bad that I got a call from best friends saying, "Can we do a Zoom with you?" So, yeah, I just, you know, I'm also, I do stuff for, you know, kids who come from underprivileged backgrounds. Anybody that doesn't have control over the outcome, you know, they can't control the outcome because of age or because they have four legs. I'm all in for.
Yes, I know. Anyway, I'm gonna put that in the show notes for you guys listening. Guy's incredible. I forget his name, but it's called Sitting with Dogs. I'll put the
I
link in
wrote it
the,
down. I'm gonna look for it.
yeah, it's just really, it's, I can like, oh my God, I've been watching these videos for an hour and 20 minutes now. I need to go back to work because they're just, it's so fascinating. It's kind of like that Cesar guy who, you know, does the,
Dog whisperer.
yeah, what's his name?
Yeah.
Cesar or something, right?
Yeah. I don't know what it is, but I know
Yeah.
exactly who you're
But
talking about.
yeah, it reminds me of that guy because, and I love watching that stuff. And I think there's so many lessons for network marketing because those guys are never really training the dogs, they're training the people.
Yeah.
Right? It's
Well,
the same, you know, it's like when people like, well, these millennials today and these Gen Z today and these Gen X today, and they don't, and I'm like, you're not going to change the later millennial generations. You have to change the way you do business because this is your future, is these people. And like anybody, right? You and I, we did not have social media growing up. We didn't have phones. We didn't have cell phones growing up. So somebody who's under 45 just doesn't even recognize an idea that, wow, there's like dinosaurs roaming the earth who were born when there was no cell phones.
right.
So it's easy for us boomers to say, well, these kids, they gotta do this. And no, it doesn't work that way. Okay. If you want to build a business today, you're going to have to be working with people of the millennial and later generations and probably more X and Y and Z.
Z
And it's a
generation,
different
the
world.
well, this and the Z generation is completely different from the millennial generation.
Yeah.
And the Z generation is more like maybe the baby boomer generation in a lot of ways, in their work ethic and the way they see the world. They're not as prone to want to be on social media. It's just, you know, they've seen how social media has been used to cancel people and implode their future by a post they did when they were 15. So they're more likely to be on Snapchat where they feel more secure. And they are, believe it or not, um, a little more relational. They're more they're, you know, COVID and being on Zoom and all of these things has made them want to be to, you know, in person more and want to get off of dating apps. Like they're sort of upending a lot of sort of the millennial thing. In fact, in business school, you know, you get taught there's the industrial age, you know, there's, you know, the information age. Well, right now they call it the relationship age. And much of it looks very much like a network marketing business, what's being taught in business school today as to, you know, how to really build longevity and grow your company is this relationship age, which is really being driven by Gen Z.
It's really a fascinating dynamic that I watch really closely. Social media, as you know, I did everything to get off it and being active in the business. I said, okay, I've got to be at least have a presence on social media because I feel like you do. But man, it's so destructive to relationships and self-esteem. The
Yes.
people who are just, but living these, they're just beating themselves up because they're looking at everybody else's Instagram life, not their real life, and don't realize, no, that all that, and how many times have you seen it? Somebody's, there's their post on social media, and here we are, we just climbed Mount Everest as a family and came back from Paris where we went to Disney World, and which was a week after we were at Hawaii, and we lived, and you bump into them 10 days later and they're like, oh yeah, I just got divorced.
Yeah.
Marriage has been terrible for 4 years. And finally I got out and I got it. Like, didn't I just see 10 days ago you were,
Well,
on
it-
Instagram that this was the happiest family in the world?
well, the thing that
It's a facade.
Well, the thing that I find crazy, and I think one of the most destructive things that the internet has done to our profession is anybody can act like they're succeeding.
Yeah.
So it's like I'll watch somebody do a reel that people assume is successful, and I'll know the real numbers, and they're not killing it in any way, shape, or form. And
Yeah.
suddenly, everyone has the same reel. And it's like you just want to call every single person and say, how's that working for you?
Yeah.
It's social media is it's I had I did a Discover uh opportunity presentation for a young gal in my organization. I think she's maybe 22 or 23. And her dad was asking me, some questions. And he said she's spending way too much time on social media, not doing the things that she really needs to do to build her business. And how can I hold her accountable? And this gal said, I'm thinking about just getting off social media completely. And in some ways, I think, that would probably be not a bad idea, because there's a couple of things I see happen on social media. Number one, people post about lifestyle. And sometimes the lifestyle they're posting about is the thing that brings people to them. But the people that they're bringing to them, they want the lifestyle without the work, because they're not seeing the hustle at all. They're not seeing
Yeah.
what's going on behind the lifestyle. And like I'll see people's posts where they're all over the place. They're this weekend I'm here and this week I'm here, and they're not, but I have my phone so I can work from phone. When I'm launching someone, I can't work from my phone. I'm like I'm so invested in that person's getting their business off the ground and helping them get other partners off the ground, and that I can't do that from my phone. I need concentrated time. I can't be distracted. I'm all in. And so there's just a lot of misinformation, I hate to use that word, about what it takes that comes through social media. And it's attracting, I think, some people who really don't want to do what we do. They want to do what they see, if that makes
Well,
sense.
yeah, it's what is the recruiting platform that you're putting out there? I
Yep.
was talking with Ann Feinstein a couple of weeks ago, and she was talking about you know, this one of the people she was working with, and they're putting all these messages on social media. If you're a struggling, network marketer, call me. And then later she was like, man, all I get is these struggling network marketers. And they're, well, hello, what are
Yeah.
you recruiting? This is what you're speaking to. You have
It's
a
like
book,
a shark clearing
I
out
think
the
it's
dead fish.
chapter, I think it's chapter 5. You talk about systems versus reach out methods.
Yeah,
You want to say more on that?
sure. People get the two very confused. I've seen it over and over and over again. Like social media is a reach out method. It's like it's a trailer to a movie, really. You're putting a trailer out there and it needs to be equal parts hustle and you. And I don't post a whole lot because I'm just a very private person. I mean, I grew up with a father who was, had like the highest defense clearing in the world. And you just weren't like, it's just inbred in me that you don't do too much to let the world know what you're doing. And so it's a very difficult platform for me, but I do have a presence so that somebody can look and see I'm legit and I'm not making up, that I do this and have a network marketing business and I'm, and people who are working with me can look and see that I'm a real person. But um but but so there's a lot of reach out methods that people employ, and if you don't have a complete system, what tends to happen is you bring somebody in, they blow through their warm market list, or they start posting about their business on social media. And so then they can't, when they go to reach out to people, that people ghost them because they already know what they're calling to talk to them about or texting them about. And so they have nowhere to go and they quit. A system is more complete. Here's the reach out method, but it's going to teach you how to meet people. And so you need to teach people how to meet people, how to present to the people they meet, and then repeat this process. And if that isn't in place, you don't have a system. And without a system, you're not going to see real duplication happen. And sometimes reach out methods will produce growth and they'll produce promotions and all of those things because people get excited. But then duplication really doesn't happen. And then the organization isn't around in, a few years. It just kind of fizzles out and goes away.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great chapter in the book. Anything else? What else would you, final thoughts on the book that you want to share with the world?
Final thoughts. Hmm. I think that, you know, I just think that if you, if you want to be a network marketing leader, you have to understand this business. You have to understand it fundamentally, and and you've got to understand it not just here, but in here. And I think this book helps to move this business from sort of this thing you can't explain to something you can explain to something that you can be really excited about, and understand that this is something that you can do and really, really should do if you are really looking at what's happening in the world. I believe our business is a solution to, all the things that are happening around us, in terms of the economic platform that we're standing on right now at this time. And it's always been, you can always see the handwriting on the wall, right? I remember starting, and families were largely one income households, and gradually it became two income households. And now, it's three income households. And instead of putting your time and energy into something where you're just, trading an hour for $1, understand how leverage can absolutely transform your life so that you can buy back the time that you were putting into three things. And I just think our business is magical, and I don't understand. I look at things like real estate and the number of people who go into real estate. Real estate there's nothing wrong with real estate, but it costs quite a bit of money to get your real estate license. And then if you do get a listing, you're going to invest money to get pictures, to get the brochures. There's a lot that goes into being a realtor, not just financially, but to be successful. There's going to be time. You sell a house and now you're looking for the next person, where if you put the same energy into network marketing, there'd be some point where you'd have leveraged yourself instead of just trading time for money again. So there's some misconceptions about our business, and they all come from people fundamentally not understanding the model. And this will clarify, I believe.
I think it will. Network Marketing Today, the big build by Dana, the Duchess of Duplication Collins. We will put links in the show notes. Be sure and share this podcast with your team. Like it, subscribe, share, put your comments. We want to hear from you. Miss Dana, as always, it's a pleasure and an honor to hang out with you and talk shop.
Yes, thanks.
And I'm really excited to see your book out there, and I know it's going to touch lives and make a difference for people. So
They
thanks
just
for
have to know
writing the
about it.
book. Thanks for being on, and thanks for being you.
Thanks for all you have done in my life, Randy, and the many, many people that you have impacted, because it's been a lot. It's been a lot. And, each person, and that's the beauty again of our business, is that, you've impacted my life, and I've been able to share what you've shared with me with the people that I interact with. And so the ripple effect is huge. So thank you.
Yes, we all get to pay it forward as part of the cool thing of the business. All
Yep.
right, for you guys watching, listening, thanks for being on. We'll see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel, Duplication Nation MLM podcast. Peace.
Peace out. Bye.